And everyone, and thanks for joining us on The World Today. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Here's what's coming up within the half hour. The world watches as we near U.S. President Donald Trump's deadline for Iranian authorities to reopen the Strait of Hormuz before all hell breaks loose. One person killed after a fire tank explodes in the Panama Canal. And other stories. So let's begin The World Today. A gunman has been killed, 2 people injured following a shootout near the Israeli consulate in Istanbul, Turkey. An act Turkish President Recep Erdogan has described as heinous. Turkish Interior Minister Mustafa Çiftçi confirms 2 policemen were slightly injured in the gunfight, adding that the attackers had come to Istanbul from the city of Izmit by rental car and that 2 of them were brothers. In a statement on X, the Interior Ministry said the gunman killed identified the gunman killed as Yunus E.S., who was said to be connected to the terrorist organization that exploits religion, though no group has claimed responsibility for the attack. Police were initially quoted as saying 2 attackers had died. However, the local governor, David Gull, later clarified only 1 person had been killed. Now to the Middle East conflict, where Iran shows little signs of giving in to U.S. President Donald Trump's threats. His Tuesday deadline is inching even closer. President Donald Trump has reiterated that Iran has until tonight to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, else a whole civilization will die tonight. Briefing the media at the White House, the U.S. president said the new round of strikes against Iran would be devastating and that they would begin at 8 p.m. Washington, D.C. time today. Within 4 hours, he warned that every bridge and power plant in the nation would be decimated, adding that something revolutionarily wonderful can happen before his deadline for Iran to reopen the key shipping channel. Iran's Navy affirmed that the Strait of Hormuz will never return to its former state, especially for America and Israel.
Yeah, if they assume control, if we do something and they assume control, I think it's very positive, a big step. I don't think you'd see the radicalization that you have seen in the last. Look what happened. I mean, women are being executed because they're not properly clothed, they say. They're not properly clothed, and they execute the women. They shoot them right on the street. No, you have a much different group of people. Now, I'm not saying we are dealing with them. Essentially, they have till 8 o'clock tomorrow night, Eastern time. But we are dealing with them. I think it's going well. Mr. Witkoff is here, and JD's involved in the dealing. Mr. Witkoff is sitting right here, and I think it's going fine, but we'll have to see. You have to understand, we've been dealing with these people for 47 years. I'm standing here with a much more powerful Iran as of a month ago, not anymore. Right now, they are decapitated. But I'm standing here a month ago with a much more powerful Iran than it was at any point during 47 years.
U.S. President Donald Trump briefing at the White House. In the meantime, the U.S. has carried out new strikes on military targets in Kach Island, Iran's key oil export terminal. Explosions were reported by Iranian media ahead of President Trump's deadline for Iran to make a deal and reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps has warned restraint is over. Israel has been warning Iranian citizens in the country not to travel by train, hinting at potential new targets. That warning comes hours after Iran rejected the United States' 45-day ceasefire proposal, demanding it wants a permanent end to the war. The Israel Defense Forces has confirmed it has struck a third petrochemical complex in Iran, saying it is a facility that produced nitric acid used in ballistic missile production. Well, the U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance is in Hungary for a two-day visit to deliver President Donald Trump's support to his ally with the hope to boost Orban's chances ahead of a tightly contested parliamentary election. Speaking at the country's capital, Mr. Vance highlighted that he was there to help the Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban's re-election bid. A clear sign yet that President Donald Trump's administration is going all in for an Orban victory when Hungarians go to the polls this Sunday. Mr. Orban is running for his fifth straight term as Prime Minister. He and his nationalist populist Fitz party are facing their toughest race in 2 decades against a centre-right challenger, the Tisza party, led by Peter Magyar, that would bring an end to Orban's 16 years in power. On his part, Viktor Orban says it's been a golden era in relations with the United States as he hosted Vice President J.D. Vance. Return now to our lead story, still awaiting a response from Iran as well as the United States as we inch closer to President Donald Trump's deadline for Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Iran saying the strait will never be reopened. Joining us now is geopolitical analyst Onyekachi Adekoya. He's here in Lagos. Onyekachi, thank you for joining us on the program today. And I'd like to find out, what you make of President Donald Trump's rhetoric, especially over the last 2 days, few days, beg your pardon, especially the ones concerning the attacks on Iran, his promise the people hell. His latest warning is a whole civilization will die tonight, referring to his deadline of 8 p.m. for Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah, thanks, Amarachi, and good evening to your viewers. Unfortunately, it sounds like the war is not going well for Donald Trump as planned because nothing has been achieved to date. The Strait of Hormuz, which was once open, is now shut. The regime change has not happened. According to some analysts, there was a failed attempt to heist off Iranian uranium just some days back. It doesn't look like though things are going well. Over 17 bases has been hit. The reports are a bit conflicting. Some people argue over 750 American soldiers have been killed and injured, though the Pentagon is doing a bit of information management. So it's all what we call escalation, going up the escalation ladder. And the parties are in a contest for who controls the levers of escalation dominance, and who can threaten the most, who can inflict the most damage and achieve some concession at the negotiating table. So that's the way I read it. Unfortunately, I think everybody has underestimated Iran's resolve to remain in the fight and keep fighting.
Indeed, everyone really underestimated that. President Trump had said sometime in previous past that the U.S. would be done with this war in 2 or 3 weeks. He's been, threatening Iran. I think by Sunday he had expletives on his Truth Social handle about the people of Iran. This is the same people that he told to take over their own country. He said he was doing this for them. And now, he also says that Iranians are asking U.S. forces to continue bombarding their country in order to get rid of, the government and the regime, the Islamic regime and all of that. And we're seeing a result from the Iranian government, at least the president, and the few people who remain in his government, that they will not be given up. They're facing the U.S. head on with this war.
Yeah, you must remember that the Persians are a civilization that has lasted for over 5,000 to 6,000 years. And they have a very rich culture of being a one-time world power under Xerxes the Great. So Iranians are known to be very proud people. And clearly their resolve is deepening. To the point you made, I think that the last report we saw is that over 40 million Iranians have committed to mobilizing to fight the American if they do an underground invasion. I mean, the CENTCOM commander briefing on the rescue of the pilots, purported rescue, also did report that every local Iranian that had a weapon was firing at the Americans. So clearly, it's not breaking the resolve of the people. If at all, we are seeing chants on the streets of Tehran, in Isfahan, different parts of the country, where the people are chanting increased death to America and Israel, and then, you know, chanting for causing them to suffer more pain. I mean, this is, I'm not sure what to make of this. The quick war was promised. I did remember when Donald Trump was briefing about the heist that took place in Venezuela and said America has the greatest military in the world. They went in and they went out, not like the Russians. You know, it's 6 weeks now. The Iraq war was concluded in 26 days. Donald Trump cannot claim a quick victory. And if history teaches us anything, is that the desert has time. And time is not what the Israelis or the Americans have. So I worry that we may have a protracted war. Beyond that, the infrastructure that is being destroyed may take about 2-3 years to repair. And so some of those production capabilities will not come back online immediately, which means that the fuel prices and the high prices in crude will remain there for a long time. That's the bigger problem for me.
Yeah, but not to be a warmonger or anything, Onyekachi, with Iran's response, they will not be reopening the Strait of Hormuz. And, you know, their stance, the defiance against the United States, Trump's actions, do you think he really would carry out those attacks he's promised at 8 p.m. Washington time tonight, so that Iran reopens the Strait of Hormuz, which is said severally and defiantly it will not reopen? We're looking at a major war in the Middle East, aren't we?
Yeah, so the war is already at foot, and there's already destabilization in the entire region. Over 17 bases have been destroyed. Now, the time to warning for the Israelis for incoming Iranian missiles has reduced to about 20-30 seconds, less than a minute. And then the Houthis are threatening to close the Bab al-Mandeb Strait if this escalation continues. Not to be a warmonger, but if you look at the redundancies that the Iranians have in sustaining the naval blockade, we still have not seen them mine the Strait of Hormuz. We still have not seen them use their submarine. Their fast surface vessels are still intact. The intelligence of the Americans did say that over 50% of American missile launchers and missiles are still intact. They have a significant redundancy in drone capability, so they can conduct swarm operations. They put out a statement saying that they've cut off all negotiations with Americans just this afternoon. And yeah, for Donald Trump, he has the option. I mean, you can make the argument that Newman made when he attacked Okinawa, to say that, you know, you use a nuclear weapon to save at least 1 million American lives. So maybe this is being done for humanity. So there's a possibility that a tactical nuclear weapon will be considered either by the Israelis or the Americans. The bigger problem is that the Iranians have sufficient materials to make a dirty bomb, and Israel is just a strip of land. So like I said, both parties are jostling for peak position on the escalation ladder. All I will say is that in my assessment, there is no quick resolution to this matter. It is in America and Israel's interest for this war to stop now so that they can regroup and recalibrate and launch another attack. It is in Iran's interest to continue fighting and not giving the Israelis and the Americans time to catch a breath. You know, so you can see how the table is set. Donald Trump is putting on his poker face, you know, wanting to go for Kog Island. They're currently bombing the Kog Island. But even just going up the peninsula there, you know, supply chain, communication, logistics to troops to hold the place will be difficult. I think it's part of Donald Trump's negotiation. So I wouldn't put anything funny beyond him. Maybe the mother of all bomb will be dropped, or the father of all bomb. I don't know which of them has that. But something may happen. I don't think that would deter the Iranians, who also have the right of response. That's my immediate prognosis.
Ikachi, if you could quickly speak to the European allies who are just standing by watching these events unfold, what do you think their response will be tonight, whether or not President Trump carries out his threats?
Already we're seeing France break away, France, Spain, the UK, even Germany, a number of them. I mean, there's also dissent from Slovakia and Hungary on what even Europe should be doing at this time, because the Iranians, on their other part, are also attacking Russian infrastructure that exports crude and oil. So it's a double-pronged war for the Europeans. And I think that what the Europeans are doing now is to prioritize their own safety and energy security. So I suspect that they will maintain it is not our war business. The only problem I worry about is that we understand that there are some Russian submarines within the vicinity. There are some Chinese vessels within the vicinity. The Houthis are threatening. Hezbollah is threatening. In Bahrain, in Qatar, some of these places have Sunni leadership in a Shiite majority population, and the Gulf countries don't look like they have the appetite for a war. I think it's not a fight for the Europeans. The bigger problem will be in Western Asia, and how long before Russia or China takes a position, and how long before the Gulf countries also intervene. For the Europeans, they have bigger fishes to fry currently. That's soaring gas prices and the war in Ukraine. That would be my own assessment.
A bleak future you paint for us, Onyekachi. Thank you again for joining us on the program today.
Thank you for having me.
Take a short break on The World Today. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The World Today. From France, one person has been killed, a train driver, after his high-speed passenger train collided with a lorry at a level crossing in France while traveling at an estimated 160 kilometers per hour. The incident took place shortly before 7 in the morning between Bethune and Lens in the North Pas-de-Calais region. 2 people initially deemed to have sustained critical injuries following the crash were doing well, while 13 others sustained injuries, according to local authorities. The driver of the lorry, which was carrying military equipment at the time, is in police custody, but officials say it's too early to determine the cause. An investigation, however, into potential aggravated manslaughter is underway. The vehicle belonged to a commercial haulier, and the driver was not a member of the military. One person has been killed, 2 firefighters injured after a fire broke out beneath the Bridge of the Americas, the oldest bridge spanning the Panama Canal. Authorities report that the blaze was sparked by a large explosion involving fuel tanker trucks at a logistics complex beneath or next to the bridge's support structure. During a press conference, Fire Department Colonel Victor Alvarez confirmed that a worker was killed after being trapped between 2 tanker trucks following the explosion, and that the fire had been fully extinguished and crews were carrying out cooling operations. The Ministry of Public Works has ordered the temporary closure of the Bridge of the Americas, while officials say a structural inspection will be carried out before the bridge reopens. And the Artemis II astronauts are bound now for Earth after conducting a historic and record-breaking lunar flyby, during which they witnessed a total solar eclipse from their spacecraft. Artemis II Commander Reed Wiseman explains that the Orion spacecraft's crew saw sights that no human has ever seen, while pilot Victor Glover says there are no adjectives to describe what they observed. Over a period of 7 hours, the crew observed and photographed the moon, including parts of the lunar surface never seen before. The spacecraft reached its maximum distance from Earth as 252,000 756 miles during the lunar flyby. The crew had already broken the previous record for the furthest distance humans have traveled into space. Earlier, the astronauts lost connection with NASA while behind the moon. The outage, which was expected, lasted around 40 minutes. President Donald Trump praised the astronauts, saying they have made history and made all America really proud. He further invited them to the White House upon their return to Earth. The astronauts are due to splash down in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of the U.S. on Friday.
I'd like to ask, what was your feeling when you had no communication, zero communication? All of a sudden it was cut off by, obviously, your very special location. What was your feeling when you had no communication? A little bit different, perhaps?
I said a little prayer, but then I had to keep rolling. I was actually recording scientific observations of the far side of the moon. You know, that is actually the time when we were the farthest and the closest to the moon, and so we were really able to make some of our most detailed observations of the far side of the moon up close. And so we were busy up here working really hard, and I must say it was actually quite nice.
Did you see a difference, a big difference, between the far side of the moon and the near side of the moon? Was there a difference in feel or difference in look? What did you see?
Well, Mr. President, we certainly did, and our science team really set us up well to understand what they thought we might see. And the gravitational pull of the Earth has had a profound effect on the near side of the moon, changing all those dark mares, those dark patches of the moon you see from Earth. It's very different on the far side. While you see some small patches of those mare in deep craters, it's very much absent on that side, so that's really neat. And while I have the microphone, sir, I just want to thank you on behalf of Canada. The space leadership you spoke of from America truly is extraordinary. I've said this many times before. A nation that leads like that and creates and sets big goals for humanity that brings other countries along with it is truly incredible. And I know that's a very intentional, not a necessary decision, intentional decision to lead by example and to allow other countries like Canada to share our gifts and help you achieve these mutually beneficial goals, like establishing a presence on the moon and eventually going to Mars. And Canadians are so proud to be a part of this program.
I guess we can say now the Artemis II astronauts have truly gone where no man has gone before. And that's the world today. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani.